Alfa Romeo is trying again, the Giulia sedan, the Stelvio SUV, the Tonale crossover, and now promises of an electric future. Each attempt comes with the same promise. This time will be different. This time we've figured it out. This time America will finally fall in love. And here's the thing, America has fallen in love. Multiple times. The problem isn't the romance, it's making the relationship last. This is the story of Alfa Romeo's complicated relationship with America, why we keep getting back together, and why it keeps falling apart. If you've never driven an Alfa Romeo, you might wonder what the fuss is about. On paper, they're hard to justify. Reliability ratings are consistently questionable. Resale values drop like stones. Dealer networks are sparse. For the money, you could get something more practical, more reliable, more sensible. But Alfa Romeo has never been about sensible. Drive any Alfa Romeo from a vintage Spider to a modern Giulia, and you'll understand immediately. These cars feel different. Not just quick or comfortable or well-built. Different. The steering talks to you in ways most modern cars don't. The engine doesn't just make power, it makes music. The whole car feels alive, responsive, eager. Like it wants to be driven, not just operated. And the styling. These aren't transportation appliances, they're rolling sculptures. Proportions that look right from every angle. Details that reward close examination. Park an Alfa Romeo anywhere and people stop to look. Not just car people, everyone. Then there's the heritage. Alfa Romeo won the first 2 Formula One World Championships. They dominated racing in the early 1950s. They built cars that beat Ferrari on track and Mercedes on the street. There's a reason that old saying exists. You're not a true car enthusiast until you've owned an Alfa Romeo. Because once you have, you understand. You join the club of people who know. So when Alfa Romeo first came to America in the 1950s, falling in love was inevitable. The first American chapter started small but promising. Max Hoffman, the legendary importer who brought Porsche and Mercedes to America, began importing Alfa Romeos in the mid-1950s. Beautiful little sports cars with racing pedigree and European flair. Everything American cars weren't. By 1961, Alfa Romeo established official US operations, real dealers, factory support. The commitment to do this properly. Through the 1960s and 70s, they built something special. The Spider became an icon. Dustin Hoffman drove one in The Graduate. The Giulia became legendary among those who knew. Alfa owners formed clubs, organized meets, shared tips and stories. Because yes, these cars needed attention. Electrical quirks, the occasional mysterious issue, more frequent maintenance than a Chevy. But here's the important part. Nobody minded. This was the era when British cars leaked oil and Italian cars had personality, and German cars were expensive to fix. You bought an Alfa Romeo knowing you were choosing passion over perfection. And the people who made that choice, they loved these cars fiercely. Ask anyone who owned a Spider in the 70s about it. Watch their face light up. They'll tell stories about road trips, about repairs they learned to do themselves, about the feeling of that car on a winding road. For almost 40 years, this worked. Alfa Romeo had found their American audience, people who valued the experience over the stats sheet. But by the late 1980s and early 90s, the market shifted. Japanese luxury brands arrived with bulletproof reliability. German brands improved quality while maintaining prestige. Suddenly, American buyers expected both soul and dependability. Alfa Romeo's charm, the character, the quirks, the Italian temperament, went from lovable to unacceptable. Quality issues that were forgiven in 1975 became deal breakers in 1990. Sales declined, dealers closed, parts became difficult to source. Service became a nightmare. In 1995, Alfa Romeo left America. After years of mounting losses, facing the massive investment needed to meet new US safety and emission standards, they walked away. They couldn't justify the cost in a market where they couldn't compete against Lexus reliability or BMW prestige, not against the expectation that a $40,000 car should actually work consistently. They'd built legends, created devoted fans. The Spider alone inspired more passionate owners than most brands manage in their entire history, but they couldn't adapt to what the market demanded. For 13 years, Alfa Romeo was absent from America, but they weren't forgotten. Those Spider owners kept their cars running. Enthusiasts tracked European Alfa news. Forums discussed what it would take to bring them back. And in 2008, Alfa Romeo finally returned. Sort of. They came back with the 8C Competizione, a stunning supercar. Carbon fiber body, Maserati 5.8, extremely limited US allocation, priced over $250,000. This wasn't a business strategy, this was a love letter, a reminder, a way of telling America, we still know how to make special cars. A few years later came the 4C, a little mid-engine sports car, lightweight and raw and uncompromising. The kind of car that shouldn't exist in the modern era but did anyway. Both were brilliant. Both proved Alfa Romeo still had the magic formula. And both were really saying the same thing. We're coming back for real, soon. The enthusiasts who remembered the old days got excited. The 8C and 4C showed that Alfa hadn't lost what made them special. Maybe they'd figured out how to keep that soul while solving the reliability problems. Maybe the lessons had been learned. Maybe this time really would be different. 2017. The real return. The Giulia sedan arrived and it was immediately clear this wasn't a half measure. This was Alfa Romeo's serious attempt to compete with BMW and Mercedes. The styling was gorgeous. Nothing else on the road looked like it. The interior finally felt genuinely premium. And the Quadrifoglio version? It beat the BMW M3 on track. It outhandled cars that cost twice as much. Reviews were glowing. Enthusiasts celebrated. This was the Alfa Romeo everyone had been waiting for. Modern, competitive, but still undeniably an Alfa. The Stelvio SUV followed. Same story. Beautiful, fun to drive, distinctive. Everything a premium crossover should be. On paper, Alfa Romeo had done it. They'd built cars that could legitimately compete with the Germans while maintaining their unique character. But then came the but. Consumer Reports rated the Giulia's reliability poorly in early reviews. Owner forums shared stories of electrical issues, transmission problems, mysterious warning lights in those first model years. Were these cars worse than the old days? No, they were dramatically better. But early perceptions stuck, and in a market where Genesis offers 10-year warranties and even BMW has gotten reliable, overcoming initial reliability concerns takes years. The dealer experience struggled too. Alfa showrooms were often shared with Fiat, Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep. Service departments weren't always properly trained. Parts could take weeks. The premium experience ended at the parking lot. And the marketing? Well, when's the last time you saw an Alfa Romeo commercial? Meanwhile, BMW and Mercedes and Audi saturate every media channel. If customers don't know you exist, they can't buy your cars. Sales never approach the targets. Alfa Romeo hoped to sell 150,000 cars annually in the US. Their best year saw about 23,000. The Tonale arrived in early 2023, a crossover in the hottest segment. It looked great, drove well, reviewed positively. Sales were okay, but not spectacular. Now comes the next pivot. An electric future. New technology. New approach. Another fresh start. So what's really going on here? Because it's not that Alfa Romeo can't build excellent cars. Anyone who's driven a Giulia Quadrifoglio knows they absolutely can. The 4C proves they understand what makes a car special. The new Tonale shows they can do modern crossovers. The cars themselves aren't the problem. The problem is everything around them. Reliability, earned or not, remains Alfa's biggest obstacle. Modern Alfas are vastly better than their ancestors, but perception lags behind reality. And even the reality, while improved, isn't class-leading. When you're asking someone to choose you over a BMW or a Lexus, pretty reliable doesn't cut it. The dealer network never materialized the way it needed to. You can't build a luxury brand when dealers aren't prepared to deliver a luxury experience. BMW and Mercedes spent decades building infrastructure. Alfa tried to shortcut this step. Marketing is almost non-existent. Luxury car buyers need constant reinforcement that they made the right choice. They need to see their brand celebrated, aspirational, present. BMW does this relentlessly. Alfa doesn't. If people forget you exist, they won't consider you. And there's an identity challenge. Alfa Romeo is too expensive to be affordable Italian charm, but not quite prestigious enough to stand toe-to-toe with the German brands. They're not reliable enough to compete with Lexus. They're not bold enough to be a true alternative. They're stuck between segments, between identities, between strategies. But here's what makes this story more sad than frustrating. Alfa Romeo has one of the most devoted, passionate owner communities in automotive. People who've owned Alfas don't just remember them. They tell stories for decades. They keep old spiders running with determination and YouTube tutorials. They defend the brand not out of blind loyalty, but because they genuinely know something most people don't. They know what it feels like when an Alfa is right, When it's on a mountain road and everything clicks. When the steering and the engine note and the whole experience comes together into something that's more than transportation. That feeling is absolutely real. It's why people keep giving Alfa Romeo another chance. It's why every announcement of their return generates genuine excitement. The tragedy isn't that Alfa Romeo makes bad cars. They don't. The tragedy is that making great cars isn't enough. You need infrastructure. You need marketing. You need dealer networks. You need to overcome decades of reputation problems. You need sustained commitment when sales are slow. Alfa Romeo keeps betting that if the cars are good enough, everything else will sort itself out. It never does. So what happens next? An electric future could change everything. New powertrains could solve reliability concerns. Electric performance is undeniable. The EV market is wide open for brands that get it right. Or it could be another beautiful promise that reality can't quite match. Electric motors don't fix dealer networks. New technology doesn't erase reputation. Going EV doesn't automatically give you BMW's marketing budget. The pattern has been consistent for decades. Alfa Romeo arrives with gorgeous, distinctive, genuinely good cars. Enthusiasts celebrate. Early adopters fall in love. But the infrastructure, the marketing, the dealer experience, the reputation, all the unglamorous stuff around the cars never quite comes together. And then, eventually, they retreat. Pivot. Promise next time will be different. Will it be? I genuinely hope so. The automotive world is better with Alfa Romeo in it. Their cars add something, a perspective, a passion, an approach that would be missed if they disappeared. But hope isn't strategy, love isn't infrastructure, and passion doesn't pay for dealer training. Alfa Romeo makes cars that inspire devotion. They just need to figure out how to build everything else around them. Because the next attempt is already being planned, and the promise will sound familiar. This time will be different. We'll believe it, because we want to. And maybe, just maybe, they'll finally prove us right.